pure Naughty Dog fashion, we didn't rest on our laurels after the original Jak. We had an engine, we got polygons on the screen, so the beauty of that is that in this game, we got to spend all of our time, the entire 2 years, getting better gameplay, getting more intelligent creatures, getting more stuff out there, adding to the gaming experience as opposed to just fighting to get the stuff on screen. And that translates into an absolutely fabulous game, far beyond what we've done in the past.
When we began this game, the designers came to me and said, okay, we want Jak to have a gun, have a hoverboard, with all sorts of moves and tricks and stuff, go ride vehicles in a city with tons of guys around, to turn into Dark Jak and have tons of extra moves. I said, that sounds pretty cool.
One of the things that has gotten the animators really excited about Jak and Daxter 2 is that this time around, we've got a very tightly written story integrated into the gameplay. And so whereas in the first game, where you'd just be talking to people with no names, you would have the sculptor, the gambler, and they would say, round up 5 whatevers because I need them for my thing. And you'd do it, but you wouldn't really know why you were doing it for them. Whereas in this game, each of the characters has their own individual name, their individual motivations, and everything that you do in the game has an effect on the story later on.
Jak has really done a lot of growing up this game. The plot actually starts out with him spending some time in jail, and he becomes hardened. And when he emerges, he's definitely changed, and Daxter takes notice of that right away.
Something's happening to me. Something he did. I can't control it.
Jak kind of comes out of his shell during his prison stay. He kind of, spends enough time with himself that as he comes out, he has a personality. Which surprises Daxter, because Daxter's entire life to that point, he hadn't heard Jak say a word. But right after Jak breaks out of prison, he grabs somebody and starts speaking.
I want information. Where the hell am I?
Sorry. He's new to the whole conversation thing.
In this game, Jak has evolved into a much more complex character. What makes Jak special in this game is he has an internal conflict, which is directly related to the external conflict of the story. And the two combine, so the plot is very organic because it grows out of that. Jak has this internal conflict with the Dark Eco and what has happened to him. He's a much tougher character now. He's seasoned. He was almost a boy previously, and now he's grown into the reality of, we know that there are things out there that can hurt and that can damage, and Jak has to learn to find the hero inside of him to fight back.
He's come into his own, and he's not going to sit around and let everybody else work around him. He's actually a prime motivator of what's going on, as opposed to a reactionary.
Traditionally, platform games have been designed with discrete levels that you warp to, generally from some sort of hub or warp gate. In Jak and Daxter's world, we actually are creating a world. It's an environment that you can explore and experience any way you like. You can move from one area to the next seamlessly, no load times, no warp gates. Jak is free to explore the city and the tunnels and sewers underneath. He can go visit the saloon in the port area of the city. He can head through the airlock out into the wilds and wastelands outside the city to find adventures and experiences all over.
We have a lot of really interesting characters in the game as well. The captain of the Crimson Guard, which is the Baron's protection force, is a woman named Ashlyn, who initially Jak has confrontations with, but eventually Ashlyn fights on the side of Jak to get towards the solution and the end of the game. We have a blind, dumb soothsayer named Onan, who gives you hints about the future and tells you what you need to do through an interpreter named Pecker.
Yes, I know. My mother, she was very vindictive. Onan welcomes you, blah, 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 the usual boring salutations.
We have Torn, who's the head of the Underground, who used to be the head of the Crimson Guard, people he's fighting against, but now is the leader of the Underground, who's rising up against the Baron. We have Crew, who's an incredibly obese, overweight, evil gun merchant and otherwise scoundrel of the city, who initially you have to help to get your way and move the plot along, but eventually who you can fight against and resolve the issues you have with Crew.
the gameplay is also much more sophisticated. We have interaction with NPCs that require you to help them through the level. They'll actually walk through, follow you, attack enemies with you, blow things up with you. It's a sort of a joint effort, and it's all controlled through AI.
In the original Jak and Daxter, the enemies weren't that scary. They were kind of goofy. They were kind of fun. You almost really were never scared of them because they weren't that menacing. Additionally, most of them died as soon as you hit them. In Jak and Daxter 2, it's very different. The creatures are far more scary looking. They're far more intelligent. They do more intelligent things like climbing down walls to get you, following you across much more varied terrain. And additionally, most of them take more than one attack to actually kill. And what that does is it moves the game from a run, punch, run, punch game to a game where you actually have combat situations. And you actually get into situations where you're fighting against dozens of creatures at the same time. And you can't simply write a creature off after you've hit it or shot it. It actually may turn around and come back at you.
Being a big hero sure makes you thirsty.
Frankly, Jak and Daxter 2 is the best game I've worked on, and that's one of the greatest things about being in this business. Like, every year you can make it better and better, and it's really great stuff.
One of the issues I face now that we've completed Jak and Daxter 2 is that I honestly don't have any idea where we'll go next in the character action genre. With Crash 1, I knew what I wanted to do right at the end with Crash 2, and Naughty Dog knew what it wanted to go with. Then there was Crash 3, CTR. We knew what we were doing as a progression. Jak and Daxter 2 has been such an inspirational project for me to work on that I honestly don't know what to do next. So instead, I think I'm going to take a vacation.
Oh, great! We do your dirty work in the sewers and come back smelling worse than a wet hip hog in a warm barn.